Oh, no, he's muted. We can't even hear him.
Can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
There we go.
Damn it, I was muted. Damn producers. Anyway, happy Saturday, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to Coast College Football pregame show. I'm your host, Uncle Charlie. Huge show for you today. Before we get to that, as always, I got to bring in my two boys to help steer the ship and make everything look good and pretty. Top left corner, new Papa to be, Buckeye brother from another mother, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. How are you, sir?
Feeling good, man. Got a pretty easy game allegedly this week and before the big one. So feels like the calm before the storm.
Same. I like the allegedly word because it never feels that way for me either. Top right corner, Mr. West Coast, Mr. X Pac 12, Mr. I Black, Mr. actually has a really big game today, Mr. Alex Elmore. How are you, sir?
You know, you say big game. I was gonna say the same thing Cottrell said. I got
this is why you get what you get. You should just be like, you know what, bro? I got a big game today. I'm gonna be humble. We're gonna take care of business. Nope.
There's a reason.
Third game.
10.5 point favorites right now.
Oh my goodness!
There's a reason for it. Even
any
with
given Saturday, bro.
I know, and I won't get into too much because we're going to preview the game, of course. But no, as always, it's good to be here. I got a lot of stuff for you today. We'll go over obviously this week's news. We got some playoff scenarios involving four main conferences as far as going into the conference championship weekend. And I'm excited to get started, boys. So let's just jump right on into it.
Yeah, we got a big show. Being a show is probably gonna be a lot of fun. We've already had some spirited discussions in our group chat about the rankings this week. There's only a couple big games before, like Cottrell said, calm before the storm next week will rivalry week. All three of us obviously have big games next week, and a lot of other big games. A lot of coaching news this week, rankings, couple previews. All the normal good stuff that we bring you every Saturday. So, like Cottrell said, with that being said, or like Alex, sorry, Jesus, we get right into it today.
Shotgun, DC right, flip 90, dig, on the center, ready?
All right, well, welcome to another week of Break the Huddle Weekly. We go over all the top news from this week in college football. This week, the news cycle is pretty light, but we got some pretty important stuff to talk about. And we're going to start where we start every single week, and that's taking a quick look at the top 25 poll, giving our reactions, saying if anyone's overrated, underrated, and there may be a little bit of a debate today as far as where teams fall and how teams as far as where they are in the standings and why they're there. But here's the updated standings 1 through 25. Obviously, still at the top. Top three has not changed. Obviously, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M. We got Georgia, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Oregon, and Oklahoma rounding up the top 8. And then we got Notre Dame, Alabama, BYU, and Utah in the top 12. Obviously, Utah is that odd team out right now with BYU. Oh, actually, BYU and Utah are both the first teams out with the ACC as well as the at-large bid getting into the college football playoff. But please, boys, take it away. What's your initial reaction about this ranking this week?
For me, I mean, I think it's the look at how the committee views teams with either one loss and or two losses, looking at 9 and everything after. You look at a BYU team that's only lost the season. It's Texas Tech, albeit it was a big one. But you're saying that, their one loss is valued in worse regard than Notre Dame's 2 losses or Bama's 2 losses. And so you have them sitting there at 11 right behind them as the first team out. But then I also look at, a little bit further down where, I see a Tennessee team that's ranked number 20 and I see a Missouri team that's ranked 22, and they don't have any wins against anyone in the top 25 this season. And yet somehow both of those teams have 3 losses and they are still in this top 25 here. For me, I think it's a lot of what we typically talk about on the show. I think it's the, boosting the resumes for teams that they face so far this season. And it's not to say I don't think Tennessee is a good team or anything like that. But, to this point, again, if you haven't beaten anybody relevant, then I don't know how you deserve to be in the top 25. And then on the flip side of it for Missouri, I know, it's looking like Bo Pereira is probably going to play today. But, You're telling me that a team that has 3 losses and didn't have their starting quarterback is still the 22nd best team in the country? Like, I'm sorry, but I can't buy that. I think it's a lot of it is to validate essentially Bama being at 10, or, you know, Vanderbilt still being there at 14. Not saying that they shouldn't, but just, you know, teams that are in the SEC and giving them that boost there. So for me, it's just the evaluation of teams that have 2 losses and, you know, what's considered their resume boosters in a sense.
Bill, take it away.
Okay. Let's start with the positives. Because there's few. Justin Louder, good morning, sir. Kathleen Holmes, good morning. All right, 1 through 8, I think we can all agree we're good there. I think we get that out of the way. Yeah. I mean, the top 3 have been the top 3, deservedly so. I don't think you can argue Georgia. Texas Tech continue to climb. They keep beating everybody. Ole Miss hasn't lost. They've had a couple questions, you know, squeakies. Oregon just doesn't really have the resume yet. That could change after today. Oklahoma, big win. To get into Cottrell's point, we're talking about head-to-head. I guess you got to put them ahead of Alabama. So let's start there. Let's tackle Cottrell's first one, BYU. I agree. I don't know how you're telling me teams ahead of them with 2 losses. BYU still has a really good win, and their losses on the road. Again, it wasn't a close game, but it's still a loss on the road to now the number 5 team in the country. How are teams like BYU is a better win than Notre Dame does? You can't say that for Alabama because they have like 5 ranked wins. So, but again, so how is BYU behind Notre Dame? They have 1 less loss, and they have a better win. We'll save the Alabama Notre Dame thing for last. I couldn't agree more with what Cottrell said either. Cottrell took a lot of steam out of this argument I was going to come in with here. So blame Alex for letting him go first. I was going to blow the doors off this today. But anyway, he nailed it right on the head, though. Like, I hate to say it, but like the Missouris, the Tennessees, there's other teams sitting right outside the top 25 that have very comparable resumes with less losses. And they're not being ranked, and they're not being ranked for manipulative purposes, just like Cottrell said. They're keeping these teams in the top 25, so the teams in the top 10, top 12 that are fighting top 15 are, you know, their resumes are still going to look better because they're going to have ranked wins 8 weeks later. Like, Missouri's a good one. They didn't have their starting quarterback. They've lost. They have 3 losses. Who's their signature win? Why are they ranked? And that's not me saying I don't think Missouri's a good football team. I think they're a good football team, but they haven't proven it. They haven't done it. Like I said, I made the joke. Missouri does it every year. They start 7-0, and then they get in the meat of their schedule. They start playing ranked teams. They lose them all, and they fade away. And that's what they're doing this year. I don't know if Bo's going to play later today, but even if he does, if they lose again, they held on again. They're at Oklahoma, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. They're held on again today to get Oklahoma another ranked win. It's bullshit. And the one thing I will say this year, which I'm happy to see nationally finally happening, is all these analysts and everybody are asking these guys, like this doesn't make sense anymore. Like, I think we were all excited to last, especially 2 years ago with the first year of it, or last year, sorry. And everybody was like, like this is just so cool. Like, and I think a lot of people left people off the hook. And now I think there's a lot of fans, again, which we kind of said at the beginning of the season, this was probably going to happen because, you know, I think Ohio State, if I'm being honest, has, I think, overachieved. I wouldn't say overachieved. I just think they're better than I thought they would be. I thought they were going to be really good, but they're better than I thought they would be. The defense is just ridiculous. Indiana, I didn't think Indiana would be 11-0 right now. I thought they'd be really good. They'd be in the mix, not 11-0. And A&M's been crazy. So, but other than those 3, I think everybody else is in that really tight pack where we all thought everybody was going to be. And now they're having to make real decisions about real programs and real games and things that have happened. And you're seeing the bias about brands, about programs, about conferences. And now they're getting pressure. Like, I mean, you're seeing arguments on ESPN, you're seeing arguments on Fox, and I think it's deservedly so. They've made a lot of decisions this week included that you can't justify them. And every time they get asked the questions, they don't really give you an answer. They give you like you it sounds like you're talking to a politician. They say a whole bunch of stuff that when they didn't really say anything. And I think it's got to stop. I mean, you know, we've had this ongoing thing and we have fun with it and it's great. But Cottrell kind of keeps bringing up something. And Alex, you do too. So I'm going to give you credit too. There is in black and white on a piece of paper a set of criteria to what they're supposed to rank these teams to. And they're not using it. They're not using it because, you know, certain things are weighted more than others. They're not using those. And then some guys are just like, I don't even care what they look like on paper or what the record is. I saw them play twice and I think they're good. So I'm ranking them 8th. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's nuts to me. Like there's so many discrepancies where they use one situation for two teams, but then again, BYU just on the outside looking in, one loss on the road to the 5th. That loss keeps looking better and better. And listen, when you go on the road and play a really good team, you get blown out sometimes. It happens. Like, not for nothing. Like, I know we keep saying it was a bad loss, but Texas Tech's really freaking good. They went and lost on the road to the team that just keeps climbing the rankings. Like, how long are we going to hold that, you know, I guess the score to them, but then they're behind teams that have 2 losses that don't have them.
Well, I think we've all kind of established that like the ACC and the Big 12 really have no respect. And I think until we get another champion out of one of those conferences, I don't think they're going to get the respect that the SEC and the Big 10 deserve. And I'm not saying that's fair.
No,
the only pushback I would give on that is I would agree with you on the ACC. I think we would all agree the ACC has been a disappointment this year. Like, I think we all thought Florida State was going to bounce back. I had Clemson my Final Four. Like, I think after we saw Miami beat Notre Dame, we're like, okay, like, you know, Carson back, like that's going to work out. That hasn't. Virginia was kind of in the driver's seat for a while. Georgia Tech is like, we all like Georgia Tech because I think we all like Haynes King, but like,
oh yeah,
I don't. If you look at the top 12 right now, if you put them on the field with Georgia Tech, like how many of them are they beating? I don't know the answer to that. It's not a lot. Like they've won 3 or 4 games by 2 points. Like they're just a really gritty, grindy, tough type team. I don't know who they're beating in the top 12 right now. The Big 12, I think Texas Tech's been incredible. I think BYU's good. I think Big 12 doesn't deserve. I'm not saying they should be the Big 10 and the SEC. I just don't think they should be put in the same box as the ACC, which it looks like the committee's going to do, because I think they've played a lot better football this year than I thought they definitely were going to. Like I said, I'm been on record being dead wrong about Texas Tech. I thought this was going to be Texas Tech next year, not this year. But I think the Big 12's played a lot better football this year than the ACC has. I don't think they should be in the same discussions in that same box that the ACC is.
So
that's just my opinion.
You got Texas Tech sitting there at 5, and you know, I think to your point, Alex, as a whole, I'm not saying the Big 12 is exactly like the ACC, but I 100% get what you're saying, though. They're not going to have the same bias as the SEC or the Big 10, and they're not going to get that respect where, you know, you have a multiple 1-loss or, you know, a 2-loss team that has a couple good wins, where they're not going to get the same respect as a team that would have that same resume from the Big 10 or the SEC. It's like, I can 100% understand that there, but to the flip side of that, though, you have a Texas Tech team that is in the Big 12 and they have 1 loss, but they're ahead of teams like Ole Miss who have 1 loss. They're ahead of Oregon who has 1 loss. And I'm not saying they don't deserve to be there, but you're saying that you respect them, you know, to some degree. They're the second highest 1-loss team in the country. So you respect Texas Tech, and you're saying that they are that good, and that is BYU's only loss, you know, this season. I'd argue that loss is Bama has 2 losses, and I know that they have good wins. They got a Georgia win, they got a, you know, Tennessee and Missouri win. But to the point that I was making, Tennessee and Missouri shouldn't be here. And yes, you can say the Georgia win is good. Like, I 100% agree with that. But I'd argue that if you're comparing the BYU loss on the road to Texas Tech versus the Alabama loss on the road to Florida State, like I think that those should be equal in a sense. And if that's the case, BYU should be ahead of Bama if that's going to be the scenario there. Notre Dame is another one where, you know, I know we all disagree with where Notre Dame is ranked there too, but for me, I just don't understand the criteria of BYU having one loss and other teams having 2 losses and being ahead of them. And then to the flip side of that as well, teams that also have 2 losses and they've played each other, and Miami's sitting at 13, Notre Dame's sitting at number 9, and you got 2 losses each and you have a head-to-head. Why isn't the head-to-head the tiebreaker like we see in other situations lower on in this ranking, like USC sitting at 15 and Michigan at 18, which, Bill, you didn't even bring up, which I am stunned about. A 3-loss Texas team is ahead of a 2-loss Michigan team.
Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there.
But
right,
yeah, I mean, there's just so many inconsistencies here.
A lot of stuff.
Let's go.
We got to pause. Okay, first let's start from the bottom and go to the top. I can hear the USC-Michigan argument. I really can. But when it comes to Texas, it's already been announced that they're not going to punish teams for scheduling tough opponents early on in the season. So they've already came out and said that essentially that Texas lost to Ohio State. Might as well.
I'm not talking about that one. Nobody's talking about that one.
I know. I just said I'm starting from the bottom and working my way up. I wish y'all would listen to me when I speak. Like, I'm getting to the Notre Dame and the nitty-gritty, but he just mentioned.
Oh, no. How many losses does Texas have?
3, which is what I'm explaining. If you would let me know, I'm just going to mute because he just won't stop talking. Anyway, they've already announced that they're going to look at a tough scheduled opponents, not the same as losing to anybody else. So essentially, Texas's loss to Ohio State counts as like a half a loss in the voters' minds because they're not seeing a loss to the number 1 team as a damaging effect. Because they're not going to punish teams for playing tough opponents early on in the season. They've said at the beginning of the year, we had a 20-minute discussion about this on the first episode. So they're not going to hold that Ohio State loss against Texas. Notre Dame's losses are against Texas A&M and Miami. Both were top 10 opponents at the time of those losses. They're essentially, those losses count as 1 loss. I get it, Bill. There are 2 losses for Notre Dame, but as far as scheduling tough non-conference opponents, they're not holding it against.
I want to go backwards.
I
want to go back to Texas. I'm going to ask you again. How many losses does Texas have?
Was it 3?
3. So,
but Ohio State, they might as well not count.
No, it still counts, bro. It still counts. If you want to count it for half, I'm actually okay with that. I give them credit.
Be a loss and a half.
Thank you. I give them credit for packing their bags. And you go, you know what? We're not even going to have a scrimmage. We're going to go to the Horseshoe and play Ohio State week 1. I give them credit for that. I have no problem with that. And their other losses to who?
I don't have their schedule memorized. They got
Florida and Georgia.
Florida's the one that Bill's going to focus on.
Good loss. Yeah, you're damn right. Because I'll tell you this why. Because this is where Michigan and USC come back into it. I haven't said a damn word about USC being ahead of Michigan because they beat them head-to-head. I will say this, though. They have not moved teams when they haven't played good and won, me being twice in a row. And again, haven't had a problem with it. We didn't look great against Purdue. We didn't move, even though we won, and everybody else around us moved up 1. So how the hell does Texas go to Florida, who's a 3-win team, lose, and still be ranked ahead of me? When you're punishing me every week for not looking great or winning by the spread, but you actually go on the road and lose a conference game to a shitty team, and you're telling me you're not getting penalized for that? I don't care about the Ohio State loss. I don't care about the Georgia loss. That's football. You're going to lose games. You're going to lose conference games. They get credit for Ohio State. But if you're telling me I'm going on the road and beating Northwestern by 3, but it wasn't convincing, so I'm not moving, but you go on the road and lose to the Northwestern equivalent and get your ass kicked, and you're telling me that doesn't matter, that's the bullshit. That's the bullshit right there. Even if you want to count Ohio State as a half, like Cottrell said, Florida should count as 1.5 them. But even if you do that, Texas is still 2.5 losses. So how the hell are they ranked ahead of USC and Michigan and all those teams?
That's where the strength of schedule comes into play.
Okay, good. Look that up. Go ahead. Because I think the 3 of them 3 of them are all within 4 or 5 spots of each other. It's not like Notre Dame, who's like 20 spots lower than everybody else. So I would now saying that, I would like you to explain how Texas is ahead of them.
Texas strength of schedule is 15. Michigan's strength of schedule is 35th. So big difference. Pretty big difference.
It's not that big. You go up, like after we play Ohio State, we'll be in the top 10. What I'm telling you is they've projected it all out, and at the end of the year, I believe we'll be 14th after we play next week. So my point being, again, it's not a big difference like it was last year where like Indiana and Notre Dame were in the hundreds. So now, but if that's your argument, are we going strength of schedule? Is that how we're ranking all these teams?
No, it's a part of everything. You guys are looking at it so black and white. It's not black and white. It's not.
It's the inconsistency though. Like again, if Texas was 8-2 and Michigan was 8-2 and Texas was ahead of Michigan, I wouldn't say a word. They had better losses and they had better wins. But this whole notion all of a sudden that you lose a football game and it just doesn't matter anymore is crazy to me. And again, if their third loss was Alabama, okay, we could at least sit here and have an argument about it. They lost to Florida. I got penalized for beating Northwestern on the road by a field goal when we dominated the whole game. But they go to Florida and lose. And there's no penalty for that because they're Texas. No thanks. I don't want to hear it. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
I don't feel like we should be wasting our time debating teams that aren't even in the playoff picture. To be completely honest with you,
okay,
but it's the same. But in the playoff picture,
I'd rather argue Miami Notre Dame. Let's do it.
I'd rather argue Miami Notre Dame is a way better argument than Michigan Texas. Like at that point, we're just counting hairs.
Both 2 losses, and you have the head-to-head. Like there is no ambiguity of what do these teams look like if they played head-to-head on the field, because we quite literally saw it. So I get it. It was early on in the season. I get teams change, but we can't just act like because it was a game that happened week 1 that it didn't happen, or that it doesn't matter, or that these teams are different now. Because yes, I mean, that's the case, but at the same time, it was still this season. Like I know what it looks like if they play each other on the same field.
Yeah, but the problem is, just like you said, teams do change throughout the year. Notre Dame hasn't lost since September. Miami has lost 2 games in the last month. So
but they have not lost to Notre Dame this season.
I get that, but who you lose to, how you lose, and when you lose matters.
But what about winning? The winning part matters, though.
So I'm saying losing matters more than winning now, which is just I can't make it make sense.
Would I rather what?
Would you rather lose game 1 of the season or game 12 of the season? If you had to have if your team has 1 loss in your college football season, guaranteed, and you have 2 choices, the first game of the year or the last game of the year, which one are you going to want to choose to lose?
For me, I think it depends on who it's to. Like if it's like Texas,
it doesn't matter.
If it's Texas week 12 or Northwestern week 1, I would say Texas week 12. Like I don't care how late it is. I think who you lose to is going to be more important than when you lose. So I think that absolutely matters.
And this system was supposed to get rid of that, because that was the old adage. It was, if you lose week 1, no matter who you lose to, but you run the table, you would always get credit for losing in the beginning of the season, and nothing would matter at the end of the season. And everybody hated that. And now this is supposed to get rid of that, because it's supposed to put everything in the conversation and put, take a real like overall effect. Like, okay, they did lose week 12, but they lost week 12 to the 8th best team in the country. Are we really saying that they shouldn't be a playoff team now? This system is supposed to get rid of all that shit, and it's not. Like, and again, we're not talking about how things like who you lose to matters more than who you win, who you beat. That should never be the case, ever. I don't care if you lose the first 2 games of the year. Yeah, they're quality losses. That's fine. But now you're up against one of those teams that beat you head to head. So head-to-head doesn't matter in that one, but it matters other places. Like if you guys lose today, Alex, like should you be done?
Yeah, this late in the season, we're done if we lose today.
Even if you beat Washington
next
week, you think you should be? That's what I'm asking you.
No, I don't think we should be because I think our quality and how we played, but we're going to be. Like, that's just the realization. Yeah. That's the facts. And I'm accepting of that. I don't get why you guys haven't accepted that. Like, you guys are talking about how it should be, but that's never how it's going to be.
But it's set up to be how we're talking about it. That was the whole point. It is.
The second they put in the rule at the beginning of the year that they were not going to hold non-conference tough losses against teams, they were opening up the doorway. We even talked about at the beginning of the year how they were literally opening up the doorway to allow teams like Notre Dame and SEC schools into the playoff with additional losses compared to other conferences because of that. So we've already talked about this.
I think here's the thing. I agree with you for the majority of that. Like the tough losses, Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Miami, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Like I understand those losses, you shouldn't be penalized as much for those. However, when you're having
I hear the word head to head one more time.
When you're having these,
it's part of the criteria, bro.
Head to head has to matter. Like if we're talking about A&M and Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was this one-loss team. Let's say Texas A&M loses the game, later on, they lose Texas end of the year. If we're having conversations and Notre Dame hasn't lost since September, there should be no scenario in which Notre Dame should be able to jump A&M if they have the same number of losses when I saw that A&M beat them head to head. Same thing, the same reason why Oklahoma has 2 losses right now, and Bama also has 2 losses, and they got like 5 top 25 wins this season, but Oklahoma is ranked ahead of Alabama. Head-to-head absolutely has to override and be more important than who you lost to and when you lost to them, if everything else is equal. If everything else isn't equal, I understand it is just another, essentially pinging point. It's like, okay, we're going to add this in there. We're going to add that in there. We're going to add that in there. But when everything is equal, if all teams are 10-2, if all teams are 11-1, you have to look at the head-to-head as like essentially a tiebreaker. That's all I'm saying in this situation.
But all losses aren't the same. Miami has 2 losses to 2 unranked teams. Notre Dame has 2 losses to, at the time, 2 top 10 ranked teams. That's the difference. And the fact that you guys aren't grasping that is crazy to me.
Because you
matters.
You talk in circles, bro. Like you're not consistent. Like this argument, you go, this matters, and then we use that against 2 other teams
that matter.
There's 2 other teams, so we could say the same thing. I Justin, and then two other teams would bring up the same thing and say the criteria. You go, well, for that one, it doesn't matter. It should matter all the time.
Which one did I say that?
They have 5 or 6 things on a piece of paper that they're supposed to evaluate each and every team with every single one. So you keep saying you don't want to hear head to head. If you put Notre Dame and Miami next to each other, better losses, Notre Dame, no doubt. Better wins, I don't know. It's probably close.
Miami has better wins than Notre Dame.
Miami.
No doubt about it.
Head to head, who wins?
Well, Miami.
So
Notre Dame doesn't have a better win than Miami because Miami's win. So that's Notre Dame.
We're Miami 2, Notre Dame 1 so far. The ability to reach a conference championship game, Miami still has that. Notre Dame can't. 3-1. And the last one I believe is strength of record, strength of schedule. Which if Alex has that up, he can look. So
I actually have it up here.
All right. So let me hear this. So at worst case, it's a tie.
Notre Dame is at 27. Miami is at 43.
Okay.
There you go.
So 3-2. So how is Notre Dame ranked higher?
Because they said it at the beginning of the year. Who you lose to and how you lose matters.
So that's all that matters. So that's what I'm asking you. I just went down the criteria. There's more than one thing they rank all these teams on, Alex.
Criteria. Where did you find this list?
Google it. It's been the same. Google it.
Okay, AI told you. So AI told you.
No,
there is. They have a.
There is a written. That's what I'm trying to tell you. There's written criteria, Alex.
But
there's written criteria. They do. They have to. That's their job.
Okay, well clearly
that's their job,
Bill. And I've grasped that, and y'all haven't. So
all right.
I know exactly why this is like this, and I understand it. And people over the internet understand why Notre Dame's in front of Miami. For some reason, I can't get it through y'all, and that's fine.
No, they don't. There's plenty of people that don't. There's people that everybody on national TV lost their minds when Notre Dame was ranked above Alabama Tuesday. Everybody.
For what it's worth,
well, no,
too,
I'm
I
not
do have the
saying
full
Alabama's
list
a little weird.
I do have the full list of criteria. So it's performance on the field. So essentially the eye test, strength of schedule, head-to-head results, conference championships, common opponents, and results versus top 25 teams. Those are the 6 criteria.
Okay, there you go. Go ahead. Go through them, Alex. Committee. Go through them.
Go through what?
Go through those things between Miami and Notre Dame.
Go through what?
Go through those 6 criteria with Notre Dame and Miami.
We don't got time for that, Bill. We got 40 minutes in
Didn't
this
think so.
episode.
Didn't think so. I just went through them real quick.
20 minutes ago, I would have.
You didn't know that. You didn't know there was written criteria. You should know that.
Because I don't care. Because it is what it is. The criteria doesn't affect what we have in front of us, Bill. What we have in front of us is all that matters.
That's the point.
You could preach those criteria all you want. It doesn't matter. We have what we have. And I'm telling you why they did it. Because Miami is losing late in the season. Notre Dame hasn't lost in 3 months.
Yeah,
they haven't played anybody, but
they got USC a win. They got Pitt, which shouldn't have been a ranked team to begin with, but they were. They got that win. I don't want to hear about they haven't played anybody. You play who you play in front of you. You do what you can, and they've been killing teams. Absolutely
good.
Teams.
They're killing teams that they should kill.
Miami
correct.
Has not been killing teams
because they're playing better teams.
Well, Notre Dame.
Weaker conference. Notre Dame's not in the conference.
The strength of schedule says otherwise, Bill.
That they're in a conference? Where does it say that?
Miami is not. The strength of schedule is 44 or 46.
You do realize that
they
changes.
Are not playing better teams.
You do realize that changes every week, right?
Exactly. So as of right now, Miami is the 46th ranked strength of schedule, which is 20 spots lower than Notre Dame's.
Okay, so and 20 spots isn't what
right now.
20 spots isn't what you think it is, dude. What do you think's going to happen? All right, let's just say everybody wins out. What are you going to have that same argument in 2 weeks? Because Notre Dame has, I believe, Stanford and somebody else that has 3 wins left on the record, or Syracuse. That's their last 2 games. So that strength of schedule is going to drop.
Yes, it is going to drop.
Yeah. So then what? What's the argument going to be then?
Points. And then Miami
20 points. Oh my God, 20 spots is not what you think it is, dude.
My only argument really against this too is that this whole, honestly, I don't want to just throw it out the window, but strength of schedule to me also doesn't matter as much either, because again, like, Bama's getting a ton of credit for beating Tennessee and beating Missouri. And again, those teams haven't beat anyone. And I'm not saying that Miami lost to Louisville and SMU. Both of those teams are 7-3 right now. I'd say they have an argument for being ranked. I'm not saying they should be ranked. I'm not beating the table saying that throw those teams in the top 25. But if either of those teams are in the top 25, I think we're looking at this very differently, and they have a very similar resume to a Missouri or to a Tennessee. Like if both of those teams are sitting at 20 and 22, respectively there, I think we're looking at Miami like, yes, at the time, these teams were unranked, but I think we have to look at it, as at the time rankings, but also look at it as who these teams actually are. Because, for, another argument's sake, Oregon is sitting at 7 right now. They got a good win against a Penn State team at home. And that was before, the storm happened at Penn State. I don't think you should count that against Oregon or say like, oh, well, they beat that Penn State team who's really bad now. It's like that shouldn't be I agree. A pinging point for them to be ranked where they're at. Like, I think that would be wrong. But I also think we can look at it and say, oh, well, that Louisville team at that time was unranked, but they're pretty damn good. Just like it would have been for Alabama if Florida State would have kept it rolling and things like that. But we've seen that they've ultimately fizzled out. They're a 5-5 football team, so it doesn't hold as much weight as it would have if they would have, kept their train moving there throughout the season. So I think we have to look at it in totality there. If Louisville and SMU both finish as 9-3 football teams, I can't just act like, oh, well, Miami losing by 3 and losing by 6 in overtime. Are these just two unforgivable losses when, Notre Dame hasn't lost since September, but they played head to head against, each other, and Miami won.
Well, that, and if Oregon takes care of business today, then their best win becomes a 3-loss, most likely unranked USC team. And then you're arguing against yourself, saying you're telling me how great Notre Dame's losses are. One of those losses is Miami, which you're saying shouldn't be ranked ahead of them. So then how really good is the Miami loss? So you've one good loss, potentially no good wins, but you're ranked ahead of the team you lost to head to head, and you're ranked ahead of another team whose resume on paper dominates yours.
Yeah, because Alabama just lost last week, so when you lose, Matt.
Now it's
I've also said that the whole time. I did. Have I not said who you lose to and when you lose and how you lose all matters? I've said that in the group text last week. I've said on the show 4 times today.
You did say that.
So either you're not listening or you're just choosing to disagree with me at this point.
You definitely have said that to just, and I'm not saying that doesn't matter, because I agree with you. I think that plays a part into it. As far as what the committee has laid out on paper, that is not a part of the ranking criteria. And I'm not saying that.
And I understand that, but that's how they're doing it. I'm not saying they're doing it right. I'm telling you why and how and why they're doing it and why teams are where they're at, because I'm looking at it with not rose-colored glasses. I'm looking at it with how it is.
I see how it is, but I'm just saying, you give me this, essentially you say, hey, this is how we need you to perform. I mean, it would be like getting a ticket for something that's not written in the law. It's like you can't drive down the road with your window halfway down on a Tuesday, and you just get a ticket for that, and it's not written in the law anywhere. But they're like, you should have saw that. Like, there was the 2 guys in front of you, you saw them pulled over, their window was halfway down, and you should have just noticed that's how we've been getting people today. I'm just saying, if you give me a written criteria of something, go off of that. If they want to change that and throw that in there, like, hey, when you lose matters, when you win matters, who you beat, when it was, where it was, all this stuff, cool. I just want it somewhere where we can all evaluate it the same.
Yeah, and I get that, but this is the reality. And what you're talking about is a want and a need and a hope. I'm looking at the reality of it, and that's not how it's going to be. It's probably not going to be like that for a long time. Like I said, the only way this argument is never going to happen is to allow every single team in college football into the playoff. Then nobody can fucking bitch. But unfortunately, that's not how it is. So while we have a limit on the playoff teams, there's always going to be debates. There's always going to be everything. BYU is the best argument you have for someone in this ranking that's not where they should be, because BYU has top wins. They have a very tough loss to Texas Tech. They should not be on the outside looking in behind Notre Dame. I don't think BYU should be behind Alabama right now, the way BYU has been playing and looking. So there are teams that I do not agree with that are behind teams that I don't think they should be, but I'm not arguing those, because it is what it is. And we still have a lot of football to play. A lot of stuff that needs to fall into place. ACC championship game, Big 12, SEC, Big 10. We have those playoff scenarios coming up for you here after we do recaps here in a little bit. So we'll get a chance to look at those. But a lot of these teams have their fates in their own hands. And we're going to take a look at that here shortly.
I think that's the one other piece, though, before we move on. That is literally the one other piece, though, I think is also like where we differ. Because like you're right. And like, I would say, Alex, like me and you we probably see eye to eye on this like 75%. There's literally just like this small area where we disagree, and you say like it is like that's just the way it is. You've come to accept it. That's how you're viewing it. I also think it's okay for us to say, hey, the committee gave us these standards. They're not living up to that, and we're going to hold them accountable for that. So I think it's while I can understand that's the way it is, like I can look at this and say, oh, well, they're valuing that Notre Dame hasn't lost since September. Like I can look at this and see that that's the case. But I think it's also fair to say, hey, Notre Dame hasn't lost since September, but that's not a part of what you gave me as the criteria for how you're going to rank these teams. And that's not cool. And I'm saying that based on the criteria, I think Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame. And I think it's okay. It's okay for me, to say that. Like, I think both things can be right in that situation.
And I'm with you. But I think we've not wasted, because I think it was a great conversation and there was a good debate, but we definitely got some other news to kind of tackle. Bill, you have any closing statements on that top 25 before we jump into some coaching news?
No, it's just going to get worse because you're going to have conference, because tiebreakers are if you make your conference championship game and stuff like that. And if BYU wins out, they could theoretically go to the conference championship game and play Texas Tech again. So they, at worst case, would be a 2-loss team with 2 losses to the 5th-ranked team in the country. Notre Dame doesn't have a conference championship game. Their last 2 teams are absolute dog shit. Alabama's going to make the SEC championship. But I'm sure we'll just stick up for Notre Dame again somehow because they lost to Miami. But, losing to Miami, if you're arguing for Miami, doesn't matter. So it'll be fun.
Passive aggressive. Love it. All right.
It's just reality, bro. Like you keep saying, it's just reality.
Accept it how it is. Anyway. All right. So next up, Lane Kiffin.
Murder someone.
Lane Kiffin is going to announce the decision the day after the Egg Bowl on his future with Ole Miss University. LSU just came out yesterday that they had offered a roughly $90 million deal with a $25 million annual roster budget to go out to grab players of his choosing. And that's what LSU offered. Now, according to reports, Ole Miss has been able to consistently get close or be able to match LSU's offer. I would imagine that's going to be on the salary side. That $25 million roster budget, that's a pretty big little announcement. Like, hey, we got $25 million right here in this bank account just for you, buddy. Go out and buy whoever you want. So I think that is a very telling offer from LSU. I have no idea what Florida has been offering, how kind of far they're into the talks with Florida. What do you guys think about this whole Lane Kiffin mess?
I'm gonna use your thing here because you live in fantasy land with Lane Kiffin. We're gonna talk about reality, bro. Lane Kiffin is leaving Ole Miss. This is the most Lane Kiffin thing ever. I think it's going to be monumental because I would tell you this. I think the thing holding this up is, I will give him credit in this aspect. I think the thing holding this up is saying he wants to finish the year with Ole Miss, no matter how far they go, and then he'll take the job. That is going to complicate things because it puts Ole Miss in a really bad spot, being like, all right, well, this guy pretty much just said F you to us and he's leaving. But we also have a team that could probably make a run here, earn us a lot of money, and do a lot of great things for the school. Do we want him to leave or do we want him to finish coaching the year? So it puts everybody in a really weird spot, in my opinion. LSU's over there being like, yo, we're giving you $90 million and all this. Like, you're coming over here now. So that is where I think the tug of war is here behind the scenes. I will be absolutely shocked because I agree with Cottrell. If he was staying, he just would have came out and been like, I'm staying, not going to LSU. I'm not going to Florida. Rebels are my team. I'm staying here. I just signed an extension worth $1 billion. I'm staying at Ole Miss. He hasn't said that because he's not staying. He's gone. He's gone. It's a matter of when Ole Miss is kicking him out. And that is what I think is being negotiated right now. This is Lane Kiffin. This is Lane Kiffin, the scumbag. This is the Lane Kiffin thing that we always talk about. Like, Lane's going to do what's great for Lane. And it's helped him sometimes, and it's backfired on him other times horribly. Lane, his time at Ole Miss is coming to an end very quickly. That's my opinion.
Cottrell.
I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I think you look at the reality situation where I've seen Elko, I've seen Signetti, I've seen, all these big time coaches who were rumored to be in position to potentially go to Florida or LSU or Penn State. They've basically all just come out and said, hey, I'm happy where I'm at. They've given me more money to stay here. I'm ready to, keep this rolling. The fact that these rumors have really been out there since the jobs became open and that we don't have any official statement from Kiffin, and we were given this story that essentially there was going to be a deadline that he had to make his decision by the Egg Bowl, And then now it comes out that LSU has offered him $90 million and that we're not going to ultimately hear anything or get an announcement until the day after the Egg Bowl. I mean, I think that should tell you everything you need to know. If this was just an extension and they were talking about numbers and that's why it hasn't been announced, you could easily say Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin are working on an extension and, you know, he's basically taking his name out of the hat for the LSU job. But that's not the case here. What's being worked out right now is exactly what Bill said. How long will they let Lane coach at Ole Miss, especially given that they're probably going to make the playoff, you know, unless they trip up somewhere throughout the end of the year before the playoff. Then outside of that, though, there's no reason to be dragging this out. This is Lane Kiffin, 100% being Lane Kiffin. And I think for LSU, I think this would be a massive mistake. I'm not saying Lane is a bad coach, but you've basically had the older version of Lane Kiffin and Brian Kelly in your building already, and that didn't work out too well for you. So I don't know why teams are essentially selling their soul to hire Lane Kiffin. Again, not saying he's a bad coach. I think he's doing a great job at Ole Miss, and I think he'd be smart to stay there. But this being dragged out how it is, like there's nothing more telling that Lane Kiffin will be leaving that program the moment he has the opportunity to.
See, this is why I think Lane stays. They had his closed door meeting, what was it, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? And since that closed door meeting, nothing has leaked from players or coaches, right? And if I know for a fact, if he said, hey guys, I'm actually looking at leaving this school, stuff's going to get leaked out. You're going to start seeing commits decommit. You're going to start seeing hearing rumors of players entering the transfer portal. You've heard none of that, right? Have you heard anything, Katra? You seem to be more on the recruiting stuff.
No, it's not that you don't hear that, but I would say I wouldn't read too much into that, because look at Florida right now. They fired Billy Napier and he's actually fired, and they've had no players decommit from their upcoming recruiting class. They've had no players already come out and said they're hitting the portal. So I wouldn't read too much into that now. It's more so you typically, I would say, hear that after a new coach is hired and or you have an idea of what direction the school is going to.
I get you. Okay. Well, for me, this just seems like Lane Kiffin being Lane Kiffin. He's always got to be the most important person in the room. And Ole Miss Vice Chancellor Keith Carter actually has been pressuring Lane Kiffin for weeks now, giving him ultimately a deadline of the end of next week to give him his decision. So it seems like Lane's like, okay, cool. I'm going to announce my decision the very last day you gave me. It's almost like a laugh in the face of Keith Carter of saying, hey, you know what? You're not the boss of me. I'm the most important person in this conversation, and I'm going to make you wait to the 12th hour to hear my decision. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that there's some additional contract stuff being worked out this week behind the scenes at Ole Miss. I think Friday comes out, and he's going to say it how it is. Why wait till after the Mississippi State game? I mean, what's the point of waiting? I mean, if your team should already have an idea if you're staying or leaving. There's no hiding that inside the locker room. We've already heard reports of your family going to Florida to check out, houses around there. We've already heard reports of your family going to Louisiana to check out houses around there as well, check out the campus and all that stuff. But to me, this just seems like Lane Kiffin being Lane Kiffin and wanting to make everybody wait to the 12th hour so that he's the center of attention, and he wants to make a whole statement about it. So I think next weekend, he's going to announce that he's staying at Ole Miss. What can he get from LSU or Florida? Not past performance, of course, being considered in this, and your program prestige. What can LSU and Florida give him that Ole Miss is not able to get at least very close to? Like, I would want to stay with the program I helped build, with the morals I've set, with the standards I've set, then go to another program where you have to rebuild everything. You're in the same conference, the same kind of athletic ability as far as your players are concerned. If I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm staying at Ole Miss. There's nothing Ole Miss can't offer me that Florida and LSU can. Just because LSU is vocal about that $25 million, we don't know what Ole Miss is offering behind closed doors.
So you're right about that, but I do think you're kind of underselling the program prestige, though. Again, LSU is a top 10 job, no matter which way you slice it there. And if they've already come out and said that they're going to give you $25 million for your roster and then ultimately give you a $90 million contract there as well. I mean, Lane Kiffin, just look at his track record. Lane Kiffin has used every single job that he's had as a stepping stone to go up to somewhere else. So there's nothing that Ole Miss, like I don't think about Ole Miss and say, oh, that's like a job that, I dream to have or that I'd want to be at forever. Lane Kiffin has coached, a lot of places where, he ultimately hasn't stayed either due to him leaving or, just getting fired. Whether it be Tennessee or USC and, now Ole Miss. Obviously he was at Bama as well under Saban. So I think for me, ultimately it's just Lane Kiffin taking this next stepping stone job and seeing how high he can get, especially if more money is involved. I think that it's a better move for Lane Kiffin. That's why I think, he's saying that it's time for me to go. Now it will make sense as far as winning. Now it will make sense as far as, competing for a championship or anything like that. Program integrity. I don't think Lane has any of that. I think Lane is in business to do what's best for him. And I mean, on the surface, moving up to LSU would make a lot of sense, in my opinion.
All right. Bill, any closing statements on Lane Kiffin?
Lane gonna do Lane. It's a better job. I hate to say it. I give him credit because I think he did a better job at Ole Miss than I thought he was going to. I'll give him credit. But LSU's a better job. Florida's a better job. I don't think Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss could probably match salary. I don't think Ole Miss is going to be able to commit to $25 million each and every year for NIL and all that good stuff to go get people. I don't know if they can do that. And I think a lot of what you said is true. Lane likes to be the center of attention. The biggest hire this cycle, no matter how this goes, is probably going to be who LSU hires. And if it's Lane Kiffin, that'll be the biggest hire this cycle. So I think you're spot on there.
Some other coaching news, guys. James Franklin officially gets 5 years, $41.75 million deal at Virginia Tech. We spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks talking about James Franklin, where he might go. Virginia Tech was kind of where you guys were we were all kind of settling in on him, making his new home. What would you grade, though, as far as the coaches available? What would you grade the Virginia Tech hiring of James Franklin? Obviously, James Franklin's we thought Virginia Tech would be a great fit for James Franklin, but for the grand scheme, with the competing in the ACC championship possibilities, what do you grade the James Franklin hiring?
For me, it's an A. For me, it's an A. I think this is a home run hire for Virginia Tech. I think if this was LSU hiring James Franklin or Florida hiring James Franklin, I'd have a different outlook. But for me, Virginia Tech is a school that, somewhere top 25, maybe, or maybe right outside of it. James Franklin's going to do exactly what he did at Penn State at Virginia Tech. He's going to recruit well. It may take some time, but he's going to recruit well. He's going to win the games that he should. And being in the ACC, especially if it's going to be down, we don't know if Clemson's going to ever come back to being a true powerhouse. We don't know how long it's going to take for Florida State to rebuild. We don't know if Miami will ever have stability, year after year with their roster. So I think the ACC has, plenty room to be taken over by someone. And if James Franklin can do that and bring in his recruits, especially if he can get a lot of recruits that he ultimately was going to have at Penn State, then I think you're going to see a Virginia Tech team not take too long to get it turned around and start to have success. So for Virginia Tech, I think this is an A hire.
Couldn't agree more. I think if you look at the whole scope of the ACC right now, I think you're looking at a lot of, we looked at how, up and coming SMU was last year and how exciting they were. I think we're being honest, man. I mean, I think that whole conference is on the verge of kind of being shaken up. I mean, let's not act like Mike Norville isn't on thin ice in Florida State. He might not make it out through he might not make it back next year. Your boy Mario Cristobal, to Cottrell's point, I don't think he's on the most solid footing. They're going to lose. We'll see what they look like next year, assuming he's back. But they're going to lose Carson back. They're going to lose a lot, from that talented team they've had the last 2 years. I don't know what to make of Dabo and Clemson anymore. I honestly don't think his heart's in it anymore. I don't know how much longer he's there. I think that conference is there for the taking. Georgia Tech, I think, is definitely going to take a step back. After Haynes leaves this year. So I mean, I think it's a great opportunity for him to step right in, and if he can hit the ground running, I think he can have success there quickly. Like I said, I think he's going to recruit really well in that corridor. I mean, he recruited very well from Penn State. Like he knows, he has contacts, he knows the coaches, and to his credit, he's always been a great recruiter. He's good with kids, he's good with parents. He comes off, no matter what you think about him, as a head coach in crunch time, I think James Franklin has always come off as a very likable guy. And I think he's a kid that can connect and communicate with young men. So I think he's going to do great. I think it's a great hire. I think it's a great hire for them. I think it's a great job for him. I think he will energize that program again. I think he'll get a lot of the student body behind that team again. And listen, man, if you grew up watching college football when Beamer was back there, like everybody always used to like Virginia Tech. Like I like Virginia Tech was always like if it was Florida State, Florida, somebody in Virginia Tech, and like you didn't like if one of those teams wasn't your team, everybody's like, I'm rooting for Virginia Tech. Like they're always like the kind of like lovable like underdogs. And they have a great fan base. I mean, again, they get their Thursday night game once every year, and they do the whole Metallica thing. Like it's a good football school. It really is, and I think he will be successful there. I really do. I think it's a perfect job for him where it's still a Power 4 school. It's considered a good program. It just doesn't come with the magnifying glass that Penn State does, and I think that's why he's going to be great there.
Well, along with his $42 million deal, he's also gets incentive based on wins. He gets I believe it's a $250,000 bonus for having 6 wins. If he hits a 12-win benchmark, it's another $250,000, and then he also gets viewership bonuses based on TV viewers, which is worked out through the ACC TV deals. How that works out. So he's essentially incentivized. He will be able to earn upwards of almost $50 million throughout his contract if he's able to hit these milestones. So that's pretty awesome. I think it's a great hire as well. I would give it an A. But yeah, just like you said, Bill, like back in early 2000s, late 90s, you had the Vic brothers that were there when Beamer was there. They had the best special teams in the country for years. It felt like they were returning 5 or 6 kickoffs for touchdowns or punt return for touchdowns every year, and they were always number one. So it'd be nice to see Virginia Tech back and dominant again, or maybe not even dominant, just competitive.
I guarantee you Virginia Tech has a primetime game next year.
Oh,
when the schedule comes out, I guarantee you they do.
I would not argue against that as well. We got one other piece of coaching news, something little. LSU has officially fired Brian Kelly. Last week, we talked about Brian Kelly filing a lawsuit against the university as the university was trying to find cause to fire Brian Kelly so that they did not have to pay him out his full $54 million, the rest of his contract. They sent him 2 different offers, one of a $24 million buyout and a $37 million buyout offer. He rejected both, filed the lawsuit, and now LSU is officially thrown in the white towel and officially filed the paperwork to officially fire Brian Kelly, and he is now guaranteed his $54 million. I don't think there's anything crazy about that news. I doubt LSU wanted to be drugged through a court hearing, a court case, and obviously, as we said last week, it looks real bad on the university for making the deal and then trying to go back on it after the fact. Any reaction to this official news of LSU officially trying to move on past the situation?
I hate rooting for Brian Kelly, but I mean, again, I think in this situation he was right to stand his ground and do what he did. Your mistake was overpaying him from the get-go, and you're going to pay it now. You can't get mad at kids, or use example of kids breaking NI deals or contracts or anything else, or players even in like professional sports, and say they're wrong, that they're due their money, but then because it just, it benefits the coach in the situation. Say, well, that's a different situation. You signed the guy, you thought he was going to be the savior of your program. It didn't work out. That sucks. But you both agreed to it. You both signed on the dotted line. You got to pay the guy his money.
Agreed. And I mean, I think this is easy. Again, I'm exactly with Bill on this one. You sign him to the deal, you fire him for not living up to expectation, which I think is deserved. But at the same time, you got to pay. There was a reason why you signed him. There's a reason why he left Notre Dame. There's a reason why it takes a certain number and a certain dollar amount for these coaches to leave the programs that they're at. So I'm with Bill here. I hate to root for Brian Kelly, but he's definitely owed his money here, just based on how it is.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. One last piece of news for Break the Huddle before we can get into recaps and some other intense things. NCAA has officially rescinded the rule change allowing college athletes to bet on pro sports. This has come in the light of all of the recent gambling scandals that have been hit in the NBA specifically. And so they've now rescinded the rule change. So college athletes are no longer going to be allowed to bet on pro sports in order to kind of withhold the integrity of college football. Any gut reactions to that?
I love it. I'm fully aware of the counter argument to it. And I would say if I was in college, I would still be like, you know what? If I'm dumb enough to bet on my own sport or my own team, I should be punished. I should be able to bet on other stuff. That being said, I think this is the safest route for college athletics. I think you're starting to see all these scandals pop up, like you said, not only in basketball, we've gone through it with baseball. We just had two guys, Cottrell could tell you all about that. Two guys from the Guardians that just got indicted. And I think it's even more prevalent than we even know right now. I think it's happening more than we know. And I think these people are going to continue to get caught. I do not want a betting scandal in NCAA football. Like, you've done enough of it to ruin it and piss me off as it is. I do not want a betting scandal to rock college football. I don't. So I could totally, again, from a student athlete's point of view, I sympathize with them because I would be in their shoes. I'd probably want to do it because it would be fun, whatever. But I hate to give the NCAA credit, but I actually think this is the right move. You don't have to worry about it happening if you just eliminate it and say you can't do it.
There you go.
So hate to be the safe grumpy guy on this one, but I actually think it's the right move.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't feel away one way or another. I think when it first got announced, I was saying I didn't necessarily love it, but at the same time, like, if you're a college football kid, like, if I want to throw a parlay on an NBA game, like, whatever, so be it. But at the same time, if you want to be rather, safe than sorry here and just not even open up that potential can of worms there, I 100% understand, coming from that angle there as well. So for me, I mean, as far as the gambling side of things go, with where we are right now in the sports world and professional level, and this not even just in one specific sport, it's really, all sports. The NFL's had to, crack down on a lot of it. Jameson Williams most recently got suspended, for the 6 games for betting in the facility. And obviously we know what's happening in the NBA right now with Billups and Rozier. And, like Bill said, the Guardians, a couple of their pitchers and the situation they're going through, I can understand where they're at right now. So NCAA, just kind of looking at it as a, rather be safe than sorry kind of thing here for probably the third time since this show's inception. I actually agree with the NCAA here.
Is it really 3? I don't know if it's 3.
I don't even know if it's 3. I was just, I threw out a number. I was thinking like maybe once a year. I agree with something that they do. That's why I said 3, but who knows?
All right. Well, we are now at the one of the best parts of the show, and recapping some of last week's games. And then I got, like I said, I made some graphics for the the conference championship outlook, what that looks like, then previews, and then we're out of here.
All right. Well, I guess we'll go bottom left first. We'll go Iowa USC. USC went to Iowa. People are calling this the big win that Lincoln Riley needs to turn on USC. That whole narrative is wild to me. But went into Iowa, tough weather, bad weather. I'm even being honest. Took care of business. I think it was a close game for a while. I will say, from watching the majority of this game, I felt like just watching. I just felt like USC was the better team. They kind of had to figure it out. Iowa's defense showed up like they always do, but it always looked to me like they were better. Iowa definitely gave them a scare for a bit. They just still struggle to throw the ball on the field. I just don't get it. I don't know. But USC escapes Kinnick with a win, which is anytime you can do that, you take your W, you get on the bus, you get on the plane, and you get the hell out of there. It's always a quality win, and it sets up their big game today, which we'll get into in a little bit. So USC, survives and advances. Another heartbreaking, close, tough, scratch your head offensively loss for Iowa. Here we are.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Iowa had an 11-point lead at halftime. I honestly thought Iowa was going to kind of run away with it, take care of business. I was like, all right, well, that matchup next week with USC is really losing its muster real fast. And then USC came out and scored 19 consecutive points in the second half, and they kind of gained control. And really, it was behind Mekhi Lemon. 10 catches, 153 yards, and a touchdown. The rain definitely impacted some stuff, but Iowa's offense could not get anything going in the second half, and USC was just able to kind of continue to throw the ball. Like I said, scored 19 unanswered points, took care of business 26-21, and now we have a hell of a matchup later on today with USC and Oregon.
Yeah, no, it was definitely an interesting matchup because, I think when we did the previews last week, I was basically saying that Iowa, it's going to be the race to 20 points. Like, if you score 20, you're going to win this football game. And it was like before you even blinked, Iowa put 14 points up on the board. And
passing the ball.
Exactly. Like Mark Gronowski had a bomb, somewhere in there to help get points on the board for Iowa. But, at the end of the day, give credit to USC. Feels like that was like a resilient kind of game where you got to look at in second half where every single week for this USC team, of course, they're on the outside looking in right now, but every week they're fighting for their playoff life here. And I know we're going to talk about the game against Oregon later on here, but give the defense credit for stepping up. It's definitely good they scored 19 unanswered, but it didn't seem like they had an answer for the Iowa offense in the first half, which is something that I feel like I've never said before in life. But they didn't, and that's just the reality of it. But in the second half, they figured it out, and they really slowed down Iowa, and they gave their offense an opportunity to go win the game, and that's exactly what they did.
Bill, where are we going next?
Let's go. Let's just scoot over to the bottom right-hand corner. Notre Dame at Pitt. I thought Pitt would have an upset chance here, and then I watched Pitt play defense, and I realized Pitt wasn't going to win this football game. Notre Dame, to their credit, as much as we argue about them earlier in the show, went on the road. I don't know where you stick Pitt on the quality, road victory type graph, but still a good win. I don't think they should have been ranked, but we're not getting back into that. But Notre Dame, again, you got to give them credit. They showed up, handled their business, left Pitt with another W. They have 2 cupcakes left. Pitt, I think, still has a chance to make the ACC championship game.
They do. They're 4th right now, but we'll see.
Yeah. We'll get into that in a couple minutes, but I think kind of a measuring stick for Pitt to see kind of where they were. And again, I think a lot of people were kind of hyped for this game, and then Jeremiah Love got off the bus and put his helmet on, and we decided that was kind of what we're just going to do, and that was the end of that for me. So Notre Dame again, handling their business as they should, and another big road. Again, another big win for them. Probably their last big win, and they got to pray that they hold on now.
Well, for me, this game was honestly I thought this game was well played between the lines. I think there are two big plays that really took the steam out of Pittsburgh's momentum. And that was, early in the game, Pitt threw that interception that Notre Dame returned for a touchdown, and that instantly deflated Pitt. And then, of course, you got later on in the game, you got Jeremiah Love, just like you said, Bill, 147 yards with a touchdown. And he had a 56-yard run in that game that really just put Notre Dame in the driver's seat, kind of gave them the momentum. And then Pittsburgh could never really recoup from that. But yeah, Pittsburgh still has a chance. Their season is not quite over yet. Big win for Notre Dame on the road. Obviously, they said Pitt, we're kind of up in the air as far as what kind of program they are, but they still have a chance at the ACC championship game. So we may not be done with Pitt just yet. We may even have a preview with them later on in the show. But no, Notre Dame, 8th win in a row, doing what they can to try to make the playoffs, man. So good win by them. I picked Pitt to cover for my Superdog pick last week. I'm disappointed that they did not get me any points because I was on a roll. But it is what it is. Notre Dame came to play. Pitt did not look like they were ready to play in the first quarter, and allowed Notre Dame to kind of jump on them.
Alex, I'm glad you said that at the end there, because I was about to get on both of you guys, because Bill had said, I thought there was a chance the upset could happen, and I remember vividly last week both of you guys were telling me that
I picked him out. I picked him out right.
That was happening. But you kind of like dialed it back a bit today, so I was about to get on both you guys, but Alex,
fine, I was wrong, Cottrell. I got it wrong. All right,
and Alex came out and said it. But no, I only say that to say this. Like, I did see one thing, and I hate defending Notre Dame, because I do think a lot of the points that a lot of people make about them are valid. But we talk about Notre Dame being on potential upset alert last week, and then now they beat the dog shit out of Pitt, and Pitt's no longer ranked. And it's like, they beat a Pitt team that wasn't even really that good. But in the moment, it's like, there are a lot of people that thought they could beat them. And I'm not even just, talking about like you guys. I'm just saying, like, in general, like in the bigger picture here. So it's like, for Notre Dame, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So like later on today, we talk about their best win so far this season being USC. If USC loses to Oregon and they ultimately go unranked, we're going to say, oh, well, that USC team wasn't really that good, when in reality, we're talking about a game right now that's essentially a playoff game for USC. So I think if they win, I think they're going to have a good chance to sneak into the playoff as probably the last at-large team there. So I want to give Notre Dame credit for once here and say they stepped up in this game. It's a road win, and they absolutely dominated this game from start to finish. They had like one small slip up, I think it was in the red zone, where they didn't convert. But like outside of that, this was a game that was absolutely dominated by Notre Dame. So I do want to give them their credit in a game that a lot of people thought would be really competitive.
All right, Bill. 2 games left to go. Where are we going?
We're gonna go top left. We're gonna go down the old Athens between the hedges. Texas came in needing to win to keep their season alive. Didn't get it. Only dropped like 2 spots in the rankings somehow.
7.
Georgia,
7, Bill.
Georgia. Listen, Georgia did what I thought Georgia was going to do. If your name's not Alabama, it's really hard to go to Athens and beat Kirby Smart. They handled defense stepped up, really stifled Arch and that offense for periods of time, and offense did their job enough, move the ball when they had to in big spots, and again, another really. I don't know. I don't want to say if Georgia's rounding into form now at the right time, or if this is just a one-off. Like, they looked really good. I would say this is the best they looked all year. I thought they played a complete game, and Georgia really looked like a really good playoff team in this game. And I think the deficiencies that Texas has kind of reared their head a little, reared their ugly heads a little bit in this game. And you see the limitations they still have as an offense. And against a really good team on the road, it can cause, it can cause a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, and unfortunately led to a loss. So Texas, as we sit here, we think they're eliminated. I don't know.
No, we don't. You guys do.
I don't.
When they beat the Prairie Dogs from Venezuela today, they'll probably be 12th next week. We'll see what happens. But big win for Georgia, like I said, and I still don't think Georgia's better than anybody in that top three, but I feel like they're closer now than I thought they were a couple weeks ago, if they show up and play that way again.
Yeah, I mean, Gunnar Stockton had a hell of a game, threw 4 touchdown passes, and he ran for another score. And this game, honestly, was extremely close going into the fourth quarter. It was, 14-10 and entering the fourth quarter. Georgia scored 21 unanswered in the fourth quarter. Like I said, the score of 35-10 makes it look like Georgia absolutely boat raced Texas, which ultimately is what happened. But Texas did fight. They fought well for 3 quarters. They just could not get the ground game going. They only had 23 rushing yards on 17 attempts for 1.4 yards per carry. You got to get the rushing attack going against Georgia. Even if it's not successful, you got to get 2-3 yards clip just to keep them honest. And then, of course, the penalties really came back and bit them in the ass. 9 penalties, 58 yards, where Georgia only had the 1 mistake for 15 early in the game. So, like I said, there's a lot of things that Texas needs to clean up. But just like you said, but when you look at these two teams play each other, you see the mature Georgia team that kind of follows the game plan, finishes plays. And then you got Texas, who's a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not as disciplined. So I do think that, this Texas team will look a lot better next season as they get another a year of experience. Arch Manning gets the full season under his belt.
He gets a new coach.
But next week against A&M, they have to be A&M is there. It's the only chance to make the playoff. And even then, it's going to be a tough task. So Texas needed to win this game against Georgia. We're unable to do it. Good for Georgia, proving why they're the number 5 team in the country. And that's all she wrote.
This game is wild. And me and Gina kind of talked about it on Wednesday, but this game was wild because there was literally that stretch where the game was 14-10. And then Georgia scores a touchdown, and Kirby had the stones to kick an onside kick. They recover it. Georgia scores again. And literally next thing you know, it's 28-10 in the blink of an eye is what it feels like. So, yes, Georgia did dominate this football game. But on the flip side of it, it's crazy how just one moment, essentially, of a game can change the outlook on said game there. Texas didn't have anything offensively going for them. So that's why I say I think this was a game that felt like domination, because even though the score was 14-10, like there was never any doubts, like for me at least, that I thought Texas was going to have enough to go out and win this football game here. So I thought Georgia absolutely dominated. But with that said, I do think there is a path for Texas to still find their way into the playoff, especially, if things go. I think there's a lot of chalk things that can happen, and Texas can find their way into the last spot. Ultimately, it's going to come down to beating an A&M team that has not lost yet, but I 100% still see a path from 17 to 11 or 12 there to make it into the CFP.
Look, I will tell you, if A&M plays against Texas the way they played last week, they can be beaten. Coming
Absolutely.
back from down, what was it, 28 points down? Who were they playing last week? They came
South
back
Carolina.
Against? Thank you, South Carolina. Like, if they play like that against any of the top teams in the SEC, they will not be able to come back. Especially against Texas's defense. Like, Texas's defense is head and shoulders better than South Carolina's defense. If you spot Arch 28 points in that Texas defense, you are not coming back to win that game. So Texas does have a chance. Texas A&M looked sloppy last week. Let's see if they clean it up before that game next week. But a lot of ball to be played. Bill, I think we got one game left to cover, and then we can look at some scenarios before we jump into previews.
Last one, and this was the big one. It's the I guess I would say the shocker of the weekend. Oklahoma Sooners.
Not for me, son.
Sure. Oklahoma Sooners going into Tuscaloosa, Denny Bryant, and handing the Crimson Tide, Kellen DeBoer's first home loss in 2 years. This is a big upset. I know, I know Alex had his feelings on it. I just thought the way Alabama was playing, leading up into this game, they would handle business, and a lot of that was also the fact that I didn't think Oklahoma played a good football game in about a month. But John Mateer, say the first month of the season, John Mateer showed his pretty face, and made a couple really, really big plays when they needed them. Alabama stole the ball driving at the end after, I would say, questionable clock management from both sidelines. The fact that the ball went back and forth as much as it did in the last 6 minutes of that game was crazy to me. But this is the one that kind of shook everything up. This is one of the ones that leads to those crazy debates that we had at the beginning of the show. And we'll probably have another one, I'm sure, the last 2 weeks. So, but big win for Oklahoma. They're right back in the thick of things. You would assume if they win out, they're in. But you never know. But again, big win. You got to give John Mateer credit. I think he had a really good game when they really needed it the most. And I think Alabama was left kind of scratching their heads a little bit, but still in a pretty good spot.
Alex, I'll go quick on this one because I do want you to have some time for your victory lap on this one. I thought Bama was going to really dominate this football game, not because I thought that Oklahoma wasn't good or anything like that. Like I just wasn't expecting Bama to turn the ball over the way that they did. Ty Simpson threw a really bad interception in this football game. Ryan Williams put the ball on the ground in a spot that we typically don't see from the kid. And then on the flip side of it, that Oklahoma defense really had it going, and they were without their best overall player in that game. So I think for me, that game shows me that Oklahoma is legit. And I truly had question marks with them pretty much all season. Like I thought they were very fortunate in a lot of their matchups, like later on in the season, for example, LSU and even Missouri today. Like I thought they were fortunate based off of what my preseason perception was of those teams, but they got some quality wins already. This win of course is huge. They got the win over Michigan already, and then Missouri's going to have their starting quarterback most likely back today in Bo Pribula. So I think that's another one that can be looked at as a signature win, albeit my feelings about Missouri even being ranked at this point. But yeah, give Oklahoma a ton of credit there. I think they are a team that is legit here, and they've found themselves in the driver's seat of not having to play for a conference, most likely not having to play for a conference championship, really just getting to sit back, watch how everything play out, and reap the benefits of getting a home playoff game. So I think this is a win that's put them in that position.
I think this game, though I did pick Oklahoma to win, I didn't see Oklahoma winning the way that they did. I thought John Mateer would have to go off. Like we're talking 100 rushing yards, 250 passing yards. Like he would have to will Oklahoma to victory. And that wasn't the case. Oklahoma only had 212 yards of total offense against Alabama. Just the defense was stifling. The biggest thing with Alabama is they had 3 turnovers and a missed field goal at halftime, which ultimately was the deciding factor. So if anything, I leave this game impressed with Alabama's defense as the way that they were able to limit John Mateer and his explosiveness, but I'm also leaving more impressed with Oklahoma's defense and the way they were still able to allow Ty Simpson over 320 passing yards. Oklahoma was the definition of bend but do not break during this game, forcing turnover after turnover in the best moments possible. And like I said, this was last week, this was every game for Oklahoma here on out is a must-win game. I forgot who they have left today, or who they have left on the schedule. I know it's Missouri and then LSU next week, which obviously LSU is unranked, but that's still going to be a tough matchup. Still 6-4 LSU team that's going to come to kind of play spoiler against Oklahoma. So Oklahoma's defense stepped up, and I'm more confident now that Oklahoma is going to be in the college football playoff after watching how the defense performed against a tough Alabama offense last week.
Definitely in a good spot now. It's just not having not having conference championship game to play in, most likely it can leave them vulnerable. But I'm assuming that's what we're going to get into here.
Yeah. So what's up next? So we got two slides. This one has the SEC and Big 12 championship, how they can play out, and then we also have the ACC and the Big 10 on the next one. So since we're talking about the SEC right now, might as well just jump in and show the odds. Obviously, the most likely SEC championship matchup at 36.5% is going to be Georgia and Alabama, followed by Alabama A&M, Georgia A&M, and Georgia Ole Miss. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen. Georgia, Alabama, they just got to continue to win, and they're going to be in that playoff match against each other.
Wait, hold on.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I misspoke. The most likely, this is actually what threw me off this morning when I saw this. The fact that
they're assuming Texas A&M is going to lose next week.
Correct. That's very
what the odds
interesting.
are saying. Yeah.
I was just saying, if A&M wins, they're undefeated. They have to be in.
Yeah, you're right. I had misread it, but yeah. So if they're picking A&M to lose to Texas, and then Bama to beat Auburn next week.
All right,
and
so
the
Auburn
most likely.
So Bama and A&M control their destiny then. If they both win out, that's the game, and then if not, Georgia sneaks in.
Correct. Yeah, I think the most intriguing matchup for me would be, I would love to see that Georgia Ole Miss matchup. Auburn beats Bama, Texas beats A&M. That'd be the most chaos. That'd be fun.
Georgia versus interim coach. Come on, bro. I don't need to see that.
There is no way. That's why Lane Kiffin's not leaving. There's no way he's giving up a chance at the college football playoff and a championship. There's no way. There's no way he leaves. Okay,
let's be realistic here. Ole Miss isn't winning a championship.
With Trinidad Chambliss, anything is possible.
I don't know if I've asked you. I don't know, Alex. Why do you like Lane Kiffin so much?
I don't like Lane Kiffin. I like Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin just happens to be the coach right now.
Why do you like Ole Miss so much?
When Lane Kiffin's gone, you're going to still be Ole Miss guy?
Yeah. Okay. I've liked Ole Miss since Eli was there.
Okay. I'm just curious.
When Eli Manning was at Ole Miss, I liked Ole Miss a lot. And then they've kind of just been my SEC team because I'm not cheering for Bama or Georgia. You know what I mean?
So Ole Miss is like in every conference. Okay. So
Iowa.
Yeah, Oregon was in the Pac-12, so like I get it. Like you were
had Oregon, I had Iowa, I had Ole Miss, I had who was my team in the ACC? SMU was last year. Before that, it was Virginia Tech. Just like Bill said, everybody liked Virginia Tech. You know what I mean? Back in the day.
You got your group of 5 is UAB. I got that.
All day UAB, even though they suck. UAB all day.
Okay. But no, man, I think this is a pretty interesting like list here. The one interesting thing about the Iron Bowl next week is that it feels like almost a foregone conclusion that Auburn's going to be starting Deuce Knight, their true freshman quarterback who was a 5-star kid. He's getting his first start this week, and if nothing else, like I think with Auburn, you kind of realize like throughout this point in the year, like they are Jekyll and Hyde. Like they should have beat Georgia, but then you've seen games where they look really bad, and they handed Oklahoma the game when they played them earlier on this season. So very curious to see what Auburn is going to look like. So I think that's a true wild card game. Not saying that I expect Bama to lose or anything like that next week, but I think that's a game that could be surprising because what if Deuce Knight has his, DJ Lagway kind of coming out party as a true freshman against Bama next week? I think that could be very interesting. And then of course the A&M and Texas game. I think that's a game where of course I lean A&M getting that win there, but it is one of those games where it could potentially go the other way.
Yeah, the fact that the highest percentage chance that the SEC ship does not include A&M is pretty crazy to me. Because I would assume, I don't know if the numbers are out yet for that game, I would assume A&M is going to open up as the favorite over Texas. Let me see if the line happens to be out on that game yet. It was on Black Friday.
I actually remember seeing this last night. They released a bunch of like future lines for here you go. A&M -2.5 at Texas.
Okay, there we go. But no, so the SEC seems pretty pretty straightforward. Like there's only 4 teams possible of making it. And then the Big 12 is the total opposite. Texas Tech has already kind of solidified themselves in the Big 12 championship. It's really just who are they going to play, Utah or BYU? I don't even know who I favor right there, but what do you guys think about the Big 12 and who do you think Texas Tech's going to play?
BYU's got Cincinnati today. And I think I forget who they finished with. It's another kind of in between team. I think BYU looked really good in their bounce back last week. I think Cincinnati's beatable. I would like to see that game played back on a neutral field and see, really what the difference is and see if BYU can come out with a different game plan. I think BYU and Texas Tech are the best 2 teams in the Big 12. So if you're asking me what I want to see, it would be that. And then I would like to see, just for the chaos part of it, I would like to see what they do with BYU if they're 12-1 and get to a conference championship game and they lose a close game to Texas Tech, how they rank them. If both their losses are to the number 4 or 5 team in the country. So, being away for one and neutral field on another, that would be really curious to see what the committee does with BYU.
I like that, Bill. I would be curious to see that as well there. But I think as far as who's going to have the best shot to beat Texas Tech, I think it would be Utah. Just seeing how their game went the first time around. I know Texas Tech ultimately dominated later down in that game. But if you remember, Utah's defense was really slowing down that Texas Tech team before Will Hammond. Will Hammond was one that came in and, really gave them that spark after Baron Morgan got hurt there. So I'd be curious to see the Utah rematch over the BYU rematch personally, just because I saw Utah's defense actually step up to the plate there. It just was, over time, they truly got beat down in that fourth quarter, because before the fourth quarter, that was actually, a really good game there. So I'm kind of hoping to see Utah, but for just chaos sake there, I would be also interested in seeing BYU, make it in the chip there and lose a close one.
Yeah, I mean, the Big 12's best and only chance to get 2 teams in this playoff is for BYU and Tech, or whoever plays Tech, to beat Tech. And then Tech obviously shouldn't fall out of their rankings for losing a conference championship. And I think that's their only chance of getting 2 teams into the college football playoff. So I'm down for either option. Obviously, I want to see Bear get a chance of revenge against Texas Tech on a neutral field. So I'm kind of cheering for that BYU Texas Tech matchup, and it is the most likely as well. One more set of conference championship scenarios to take a look at, and then we'll get into previews and get out of here. But just take a look at the Big Ten. The Big Ten's pretty straightforward. It seems like Ohio State and Indiana. Ohio State plays Rutgers today, Michigan next week. And then Indiana, who does Indiana have today?
Purdue, probably.
No, they got nobody today. They got Purdue next week, I believe.
They got a bye this week, and then Purdue next week to end the season. And then obviously if Michigan finds a way, which they have the last 4 years, to beat Ohio State at Michigan, of course, this year, Michigan will then find its way into the college football playoff against Indiana. And then if Rutgers beats Ohio State today and Indiana beats Purdue, Oregon wins out. Oregon and Indiana will have a rematch for the Big Ten championship. But it's the most likely scenario is that one of the top 2 are going to come to fruition, as I don't see Rutgers beating Ohio State. So it really comes down to that Michigan-Ohio State game next week to decide.
Shit, it's so wild that, and I'm not saying it's wrong or anything, but wild that Ohio State is undefeated, number 1 team pretty much all year. Not that matters for conference wise, but you lose the last game of the year, it's going to boot you out of the conference championship game.
When you lose matters.
It's not. This one's not when you lose. This one is. This one ultimately is who you lose to. But no, I mean, this is. It's crazy. Indiana has the essentially no matter what they're going to get in. They beat Purdue, because everyone's picking that to happen. So it's wild. But I mean, I would be surprised if you don't see an Ohio State Indiana Big Ten championship.
You be what?
Surprised.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. If you look over at the ACC championship, things
Bill, you're not gonna get no Bill thoughts on that.
Bill's
Nope.
saving it for next week.
Listen. I have a set pattern of how to handle that week so far since we've been doing this show, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to, not get carried away, and I'm going to do my thing, and how it turns out, it turns out.
Okay. Let's take a look at the ACC championship bracket, though, as things are a little bit more chaotic over there. As of right now, the favorite to play in the ACC championship game is Georgia Tech, which I don't think any of us are surprised about, and surprisingly, Virginia, who a team I believe was a 4-win team last year, really turned it around this year, had a fantastic season. Georgia Tech needs to win out, and Virginia needs to beat Virginia Tech next week in order to solidify this. And then again, you notice that none of these scenarios have Clemson, Miami, or Florida State in there, which is the 3 teams we all, I think, picked to be at the top 3 at the beginning of the year. And then, of course, there's SMU finding a way to stick around. There's 3 different scenarios where SMU plays in the ACC championship for a second straight year, being in the conference for only 2 years. And SMU needs to win out in order for that to happen. And Pitt needs to beat Georgia Tech today to give them a little bit of a boost. What are you guys thinking when you look at these scenarios?
I mean, again, the ACC is just wild because, like you said, none of the heavy hitters are even on the graphic anywhere. You have Georgia Tech, who, like you said, has kind of been the constant this year. They just keep on eking out wins, though. They haven't been dominant. Virginia, I don't even know how I feel about Virginia.
A lot of close games with Virginia. A lot of close games.
I loved watching them beat Florida State earlier this year, but I feel like they haven't looked close to that since then. And then you got, like you said, you got SMU just hanging in, who I feel like we really haven't talked about a lot this year at all. And they might sneak in. So, I will say this. I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. I think SMU has been great for the ACC. But, that conference needs their anchor teams to kind of get their heads out of their asses, because if not, we're gonna keep having the same conversation every year, how the ACC is probably only getting 1 team in. I didn't realize Miami was this far out of it. Like, I don't like.
They have 2 losses conference.
They have no shot of getting in.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
You say that, but listen, Miami right now is on the 13 line,
14.
So I thought
they're way out. They're way out, bro.
Yeah. But I say that to say again, if you look at it like this here, if SMU finds a way to win the ACC, that's one of Miami's losses. How much can you truly penalize Miami for losing to the ACC champion if they have 2 losses? And again, I think it would be some craziness would have to happen for them. But I'm saying, like, just far as the evaluation goes, you lose to Louisville by 3. I get it, not necessarily a great loss, but again, I think a team that's going to potentially have 9 wins this year, in the ACC champion by 6 in overtime. I don't know. I don't think that's a bad resume, is what I'm saying.
I'm not saying it's bad, but I think it's just they need a lot of help. Like, for instance, like, they need the Big Ten to go chalk. They need the Big 12 to go chalk.
Yeah.
They need
SEC, a little bit of chaos.
See, I don't know how much that helps them, though, because, like, for instance, like,
Alabama needs to lose to Auburn next week. That will help.
Yeah, like, that's what I mean. Like, because if not, like,
Utah needs to lose.
Either way, like, Georgia and A&M are locked in, so, like, they're not falling out. If Alabama makes,
you say that, but I don't know if Georgia's locked in. I disagree with that.
I mean, well,
They got a game against Georgia Tech, and then they could also lose the ACC championship game. We could be looking at a 3-loss Georgia team. I can't say that they're locked in.
If it went that way, I'm saying if they get to I'm assuming they're going to beat Georgia Tech. I'm saying if they, with it being non-conference, I'm saying if they get to the SEC championship game with only one loss,
yeah,
even if they lose that game,
part I agree with.
They're locked in.
I'm just saying, Haynes King's going to show up for that Georgia.
I agree.
Game.
It might have been the game of the year last year. I would say, I mean, does A&M only has Texas left? Is that who they have left?
Yeah.
Didn't they have like a cupcake today? Like some
Sanford, I think maybe.
Yes,
probably.
Yeah. That's
so
what it is.
Worst case, they're 2-loss. I don't see them falling out. I guess you would need Yeah, see, I don't know, man. I don't. I guess that would depend on how you weight Alabama and Miami, and Alabama's already ahead of them. And I think even if you're saying Alabama's getting to the SEC championship game, Miami didn't even make it. Do you want a 3-loss? Like, who's better, a 3-loss Bama team or a 2-loss Miami team? And that, I guess that's where the argument would be.
Sorry, I went back. I just wanted to see the scenarios that Alabama made it. Essentially, Alabama needs to beat Auburn. If Alabama loses to Auburn next week at 5-6, or which make Auburn a 6-6 team, I think Miami passes Alabama. But
rivalry games, baby.
That's a discussion for another time.
They would be rooting for USC as well. I think.
Who do you guys think makes it to the ACC championship? They're looking at these odds.
Well, the Georgia game is not going to matter for Georgia Tech, even if they lose it, because it's going to be non-conference. So
today is all that matters for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech wins today, they're in.
Who do they play?
They play Pitt
at Georgia Tech.
Actually, I'll tell you 1 second. It's at Georgia Tech. Yep.
Yeah, they're not losing that game.
I don't think so either.
I'm would be shocked if Haynes King lets that happen. And is Virginia has what?
Virginia Tech.
And Virginia Tech with Kyron Drones, with how inconsistent Virginia has looked, and with the new news of a new head coach being in the building at Virginia Tech, Kyron Drones with his multifaceted ability in the QB position, I think Virginia Tech might pull that win out against Virginia. That's what I'm pulling for. I'm not pulling for. I think it's going to be a Georgia Tech SMU ACC championship. I think Georgia Tech beats Pitt. I think SMU wins out, and I think Virginia Tech beats Virginia.
Where's Virginia Tech at?
The Virginia Tech game is that one I don't know. But I can tell you
it's in Charlottesville. It'd be hard for me to pick against Virginia. If it was at Blacksburg, I would say maybe with that stadium and that crowd, they could stay.
But the problem is Virginia lost to Wake Forest at home, 16-9 just 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean?
I know. Wake Forest.
Virginia at home almost lost to Washington State, beat them by 2. Virginia at home almost lost to Florida State. Virginia is not a great team at home this year, is all I'm saying.
Virginia Tech's not a good team anywhere. So
true, but they have a lot of firepower that hasn't been utilized and maximized this year to the best of their ability. So I'm pulling for Georgia Tech SMU in the ACC championship game. I would love to see SMU get a chance to get back in and have a chance to kind of bounce back from last year's early exit. But
I can tell you this. I think that's the most exciting game probably is the Georgia Tech SMU game. But I hate to say it, I think we're probably going to get Georgia Tech Virginia.
All right. Well, that is quick. Actually, I have a quick question about that Virginia Tech with Franklin now in the building at Virginia Tech. Does he have any input or say on this year's current team, or does he stay away?
No, stay away. He's on the recruiting trail.
Okay, so he's just out there recruiting right now.
Probably trying to get as many. I would imagine, and I don't know for sure, but how I think this works is signing day is December 3rd, I believe, or
I think it's 5th.
So it's somewhere in that window. I would imagine that James Franklin is trying to flip as many of the kids he had at Penn State
exactly.
to Virginia Tech, and then the ones that he actually likes that Virginia Tech potentially had coming in, having conversations with those kids and seeing if they fit what he wants to do.
He's probably been in practice. I wouldn't be surprised if he at the game today either, but he won't be on the sidelines or anything like that.
Okay. I was just curious how that kind of worked with being hired with in the season, how that kind of works, if he worked with the staff or if he just kind of chilled.
Lots of
conversation. He may work with the staff in the sense of like having conversations with them, seeing how they game.
He's not game
planning
like that. Like he's
but he's not
planning for
correct. He's probably, if anything, he's trying to figure out who he wants to keep, if anybody, from that current staff.
Lots of interviews, to Cottrell's point, to see if he wants to keep anybody on staff there. I think he's definitely watching. He's evaluating to see, like Cottrell said, who he wants to really push to stay there and keep. But he's probably been on the phone a lot with anybody that was incoming for 2026 for PSU. And then, anybody that's out there that's flippable. I mean, we're getting into flip season real quick here. So we can probably touch on that a little bit next week as well if we have time. But there's a lot of, I think, kind of like big names that a lot of people think are not going to end up going where they're supposed to go right now. So and that can, it can make or break your class really quick. So he will have opportunities to make that team a lot better next year.
All right. Well, let's jump into some quick little previews for this week, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, we'll start on the old FCS up there because we are not just a Division I bully, pregame program here. Huge rivalry game later today. Montana State versus Montana. Is this a playoff game or is this like a
regular season?
Is it regular season? But I think it has like all kinds of
playoff implications,
seeding implications and all that. So Montana State, I believe, is a 2.5-point favorite. I think that's where it was last night when I looked at it. I always root for the Grizz here. I don't know why. I have no ties to either team whatsoever.
Because the Grizzlies are awesome.
Yeah. So I think I picked this way last year in this exact game, and they were the underdogs last year, and I don't think they won last year. So I will double down, as I always do. And I will stick with the Grizz here. But both teams have really good defenses. I think this will be on the lower scoring side. I know it was last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cottrell. But kind of a understated, kind of heated rivalry type thing. I know they play every year. It's always a big game. As big as it can be for the state of Montana. But fun to watch. I don't mean that. I don't mean that in like a derogatory type way. I just mean that there's not a ton of people that live in Montana, as it is. So to have two football programs that are both pretty good, top notch, almost every single year. It's kind of like the Dakotas as well. It's weird. So always a big game. I've definitely watched parts of it, the last couple of years. So, but I'll go with the Grizz.
Funny enough, there's a lot of good football in Montana because they also have Montana Tech, who is like a NAIA powerhouse over there.
Yeah.
So, Montana's
deep dive from Cottrell, baby.
Montana's got some good football. So, with that said, though, I'm also rolling with the Grizz here. Eli Gilman's one of the best backs in FCS. I think he's going to have a really big day. Defense, of course, is going to be at the forefront here, and you were right. Montana State is the favorite in this one, but I think this is going to be one of those lower scoring, kind of drag them through the mud kind of games there. And I think Montana, with their ability to run the ball, is going to control time of possession. They're going to find a way to get the win here and remain undefeated. So I like the Grizz, lower scoring, but tight ball game.
Out of the two teams, Montana State is by far the best running team of the two, and Montana's biggest weakness on defense is against elite rushing attacks. Montana State wins by 10. Easy.
Oh, you say my Cheerios. Good job.
You say Montana State's the best rushing team, but
I said one of. I didn't see the best. I said one of.
But in comparison to Montana, you said they were the better
of the
team,
two. Absolutely.
but they don't have the better back though. That's the thing.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, that's fine. The offensive line matters. The defensive line matters. And Montana
100%.
State has multiple. Montana State is like the Oregon running back room of FCS. They have multiple backs that they can throw out there.
They got a
D3.
They got a D3 Heisman,
D3
NAIA kid,
Heisman.
and one
Jay Harris, baby.
and
Jay
a
Harris.
couple true freshmen. Okay, all right.
So overrated.
Overrated. Yep.
Oh my God! All right, Montana State by a million. By a million.
Got it. Put my mortgage on Montana now after that comment.
And the under on total rushing yards for Montana.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We'll go bottom right. We'll go Pitt traveling down to Atlanta, Georgia Tech, Rambling Wreck. Big game for Georgia Tech because I like as we just talked about, if they win, I'm assuming this does lock up their championship game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I think this game will probably be close because Georgia Tech just for some reason has decided to play a bunch of close football games this year. I don't know why. But I don't see Haynes King losing at home. I don't think Pitt, again, after what I watched last week, I think Georgia Tech should be able to move the ball, I want to say at will, but they should be able to move the ball pretty efficiently most of the day here. Pittsburgh had a really tough time slowing Notre Dame down last week. I like Georgia Tech here. I don't know what the spread on this game is, but I would say it's probably closer than it should be.
2.5 points.
Wow. I'm Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech wins by more than that. I'll say that.
Control, any words?
Got Georgia Tech here too. I think that Pitt kind of showed you the team that they were last week. Not to say they're a bad team, but not to say Georgia Tech is as good as Notre Dame either. But I think Georgia Tech knows exactly what's ahead of them, and I still think that 16 ranking's kind of disrespectful. They're a team that only has one loss as well that we didn't even talk about really during our talk through the rankings there. But I think with all that said, Haynes King, this just feels like one of those games where he's going to find a way to win. Set him up for the big time matchup against Georgia next week. Both teams having one loss. Georgia Tech being on the outside looking into the playoff and really give themselves an opportunity to set themselves up to where they don't have to win the ACC to necessarily make it into the playoff. So I like Georgia Tech to win this football game here and take care of business to punch their tickets to the ACC championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Pitt has a very streaky offense, the very hit or miss. We saw that. I thought Pittsburgh had a very consistent offense until last week, and I saw the kind of what Notre Dame was able to kind of do to them and really stifled their offense. And Georgia Tech, Bill, you said that they play a lot of close games this year, and I agree they have. But where they play their close games is on the road. At home, they have been absolutely dominant. They know what's at stake. Haynes King knows that, hey, we are one game away from the ACC championship. And he's going to put it all away. He's going to put it all together today. They're going to take care of Pitt. 2.5 point favorite is absolutely crazy. You would have think Georgia Tech was on the road today. But I think Georgia Tech takes care of business. I think this is a 2-score game any way you slice it. And Haynes King is by far going to be the MVP of today's game.
Look, man. Hey, new subscriber. We appreciate you.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
I wish we had some like fireworks to put on the screen and just explode every time we get a subscriber. But yeah, Georgia Tech's going to take care of business. That 2.5 point spread is absolutely abolical. Abolical? Is that a word?
I don't know.
A word? Diabolical is what I was thinking of.
That
I just took off the dia part. All right, where to next, boys?
We'll go top right. We'll let you have your roses as the most important game of the day because I actually think it's the best. I think it's the game of the week. So top right, we'll go to Norman, Missouri coming in. I don't know if they're even on Lifeline still. I don't know how they get back into this. Oklahoma can't afford to slip up here though. Big win down in Alabama last week. Comes back home. Norman, very tough place to play. We are not sure if Bo is going to go from Missouri. I've seen a lot of reports, hinting that he's going to. I've seen a bunch of saying he's not going to. So I don't know if that's going to be a true game time. I don't know if they're going to warm him up and see how he feels, or they're going to warm him up just as a decoy. I don't know.
They said he looked great in practice yesterday.
moving around well pregame and expected to start. Bo Pribula was cleared from the team's injury report and is expected to start today, according to multiple reports.
There you go. Bo's going to start for Eli and Missouri Tigers. That being said,
which is crazy to me that he's starting, but
it is
because, like I said earlier in the year, I preached and I was adamant that John Mateer should play against Texas. Right, I was very adamant. Oklahoma went out and lost that game. Ultimately, didn't end up hurting them as far as their chances to make the championship series, but this is a different situation for Missouri. Missouri is not playing Bo Pribula at a chance to make the SEC championship game or make the college football playoff. They were just playing him to win today. And to me, that playing him today, I think could hurt him in his future more than not playing him today. Like I said, Missouri season, fantastic year. Your season is over. You're at this point, you're just playing for a better bowl game. And with how Ahmad Hardy looked last week, I don't know if you guys saw Ahmad Hardy last week. 25 carries, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns against Mississippi State last week. Very one-dimensional offense, as Matt Zollers, the Missouri backup, is absolutely terrible at playing quarterback, in case you guys did not notice that. But I think it's a really risky bringing Bo Pribula back, and I had to bring up my John Mateer take from earlier in the season because I knew you guys are going to bring it up, but it's a different situation. Oklahoma had to beat Texas. Missouri, whether they win or lose, it doesn't help their season. So them playing them is absolutely crazy. Any comments?
I got Oklahoma. That's my comment.
Same.
I don't care.
I can't see them going back home and kind of pissing away what they did last week. So, playing in Norman is tough. I think Oklahoma's just a better football team. Again, it's another week where I think, hopefully John Mateer got a little bit more healthy. I like Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma at home.
Yeah, I think this is probably a 3-score game. I think Oklahoma shouldn't have any issues. And like I'm just saying this I'm saying this again. We saw what Oklahoma's defense did last week against Alabama. I don't think Missouri is going to be able to have any success through the air or on the ground against Oklahoma's defense. So I think this is pretty handed the win for Oklahoma. I think if Bo Pribula was at full strength and hadn't missed any time, I think this is a much closer game. But coming off of an injury like he did, of an ankle dislocation, and being asked to play a brand of football that's not his normal, which I don't think they're going to allow him to. If he is playing, they're not going to allow him to run the ball, roll out of the pocket like he did earlier in the season. So I think it's going to hurt their play calling capabilities, and Oklahoma's going to run away with it. One more game to go, predictions, and then we're getting out of here.
Bill?
Bottom left, game of the week. USC Trojans traveling to Autzen Stadium, take on those Oregon Ducks. Playoff implications here, Big Ten implications here. This is the big one. What's the weather up there like, Alex?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful today. Only a 5% chance of snow. I'm just kidding. No, it's a little colder. It's a little colder. High 40s, low 50s. Not a lot of wind. You know what I mean?
So make sure you guys are home of the most temperamental weather ducks I've ever seen in my life.
But there is dense fog warning. Dense fog is in the area.
All right. Well, I'm going to make this simple. I think the difference in this game is Oregon's defense. I think Oregon's going to move the ball with Dante Moore and their plethora of Division III running backs that they have. I think it's going to be too much for USC. That defense can get scattered at times. I think Lanning and company will have a good game plan to keep them off balance. I don't think USC is going to have the luxury of kind of easing their way into this game, which they've been able to the last couple of weeks. It takes them a while to get going. If they do that today, they could be down 2 or 3 scores already. I know this game opened at 9.5. It went up to 10.5. I don't know what it is now.
11.5.
Is it really?
Yep.
I was going to say Oregon by double digits, and I'm going to stay there because I think that's what this game is. So I like Oregon big today.
All right, Alex, I'm going to let you go last here. Of course, it's going to be your time to shine there. But news came out that DeCorian Moore is going to miss another game. Gary Bryant Jr. is also going to miss the game today. I think this has the makings to be a true classic. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I think it's got 35-31 written all over it. I'm rolling with the Ducks, though. I think USC is going to have an opportunity to win the game. But similar to what Bill said, I trust Oregon's defense more than I trust USC's defense to make one stop on one drive. So I like Oregon to win, but do not be surprised if USC is in a position to win this football game and it being a higher scoring football game.
Well, look here, Triple R Fina. We're on different ends of the spectrum on this one, okay? Because I'm choosing the Ducks all the way. Yes, DeCorian Moore is out. Yes, Gary Bryant is out, but that is okay. We got Jeremiah McClellan, who's going to show up. We've got Kenyon Sadiq, who's going to have over 50 yards receiving. Like I said, I have a lot of prop bets on this game today. Kenyon Sadiq is going to be the number one target for the Oregon Ducks today. And with their plethora of running backs, D3, freshmen, it doesn't matter. We're running all over USC. USC has extremely improved over the last couple of years, especially defensively. But with how even Iowa was able to find early success last week, the difference is that Oregon doesn't take their foot off the gas. Just like you said, if USC gets down 2 or 3 scores, Will Stein will say, let's see how big we can make this lead. They will not take their foot off the gas. And USC will not have a chance to come back into play in this game. It's at Autzen Stadium. The Ducks have to win every single game to play out. They know how big next week's game is against Washington. Not that they're looking ahead, because you can't overlook the number 15 ranked team in the country. But I think that for both these teams, these are must-win games. And I trust Dan Lanning in these type of games over USC. And that's just why I'm rolling with Oregon today. I think that the 10.5-point spread might be a bit on the disrespectful side. I do think this game is closer. I think that this is more of a I actually really like what you said, Control. I think this is more like a 38-31, 38-28 game. But I think this game is a lot closer than what the score looks like. I think USC is going to be able to kind of come out and really do things successfully on offense, especially through the air. But I think Oregon is able to control the ground attack, able to control the time of possession, and Oregon's going to walk out of here. And I think that this is going to kind of help them solidify themselves in the college football playoff. Nothing too crazy today, guys. Nothing too over the top.
Nothing too crazy.
Nothing too over the top. Last thing up, we have the Eliminator Mountain, and then Pick'em, and I think we're out of here.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah. Boom. The mountain. There are more tombstones.
How have I not even been put back at base camp yet? I don't understand.
Because you haven't. I don't look at teams ranked 18th and lower.
Well, you got teams you got Vanderbilt on there. You got teams with way less chance of getting the playoff than my team.
Vanderbilt's what, 15?
No chance to get in.
Yeah.
Virginia, Georgia Tech, crazy. Whatever.
Georgia Tech is the favorite to win the freaking the ACC.
Georgia Tech's fine. I'm not talking about Georgia Tech.
Hey, you have a championship banner up there, okay? Okay, you have a championship banner up there. Be happy with what you got.
Up.
You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. That's what my wife always says when she puts me in my place. So, you get what you get, Bill. At least you're not on a tombstone. You're not. It does. It's not. At least you're not on a tombstone. You're not on the helicopter. You know what I mean?
I would have put you at, for what it's worth, Bill. I would have put you at base camp.
Thank you, sir.
You're such a suck up. He's just trying. I can't wait for y'all's debate next week, Michigan, Ohio State. I'm going to dress up in a ref outfit with a whistle, and we're going to just be like,
there's going to be no debate. This is a new Ryan Day.
Is it?
It's a new Ryan Day.
What happened to the previous 3 Ryan Days? Or 4 Ryan Days?
Previous 4. The last Michigan loss actually broke him. Like before, it was like getting under his skin and he was just going crazy. But the last one actually broke him, and it took the players, talking to him and having a heated discussion with them to fix him. And led to a national championship, and it's led to what you've seen today. I truly think that loss last year has turned Ryan Day into a psychopath.
All right, let's do some pick'ems, and then let's get the fans out of here so we can all go watch some college football.
Ryan Day's
and
a
triple
serial killer now.
Triple Arfina, in case, for your information, since you're new to the show, I live in Oregon, so I'm a huge Oregon Duck fan. We got Cottrell, who lives in Ohio. He's a huge Ohio State. He lives in Columbus. So he's an Ohio State fan. And then Bill, he lives in Pennsylvania. But he likes Michigan. So we're kind of a Big Ten show, but
I chose a winner. Exactly.
You chose a winner. Whatever. But yes,
that's a non-rapist.
Wow. Jesus, we don't say words like that.
Oh, right. Since I'm the only one that's actually given my picks live already this week, I'll go quick here. Okay. I will take the over 59.5 USC at Oregon. I already went over the whole breakdown. I think that's a high scoring close game. Second game, I like Texas minus 8.5 at home versus Arkansas. I think Texas will be trying their hardest to put up style points in this one to say, hey, committee, don't forget about it.
You muted yourself, Cottrell.
My last game here, I have
idiot
plus 13.5 at home versus Michigan.
All right, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. All right.
Whenever you have the game coming up, teams typically overlook who they're playing that current week. Ohio State does it every year. Michigan does it every year. So I don't even know why that's a surprise to you, Bill. And then for my super dog, I'm sticking with that same trend. I got Rutgers plus 31.5 today at home on the road against Ohio State for the exact same reason. I know how these games go in these rivalries. Everybody's just thinking about what's going to happen next Saturday in the game. So, well, I don't think either of these teams lose. I just think they're going to be closer than what they would have been if this was a week 7 or 8 matchup.
All right. I will go. I'm going to start off with the old SEC. I think Texas licking their wounds going home against Arkansas. I think Texas' offense will get back on track today at home. We joke about it, but they need a win to have any kind of hope of trying to sneak back in. I'll take Texas minus 8.5 at home. Game we just talked about, Missouri to Oklahoma. I got Oklahoma minus 7. I know Bo's playing. Lions probably moved a little bit, but I still like Oklahoma big. They play completely different in Norman than they do anywhere else. So, and I don't think Missouri's going to play that well on the road. So, give me the Sooners there. Washington State at James Madison minus 13.5. I like James Madison big there. Give me the Dukes. Little love to the small schools. And then my super dog, Cottrell's not wrong. Rutgers plus 31.5 at Ohio State. Rutgers and Maryland are always the weird thorn in Michigan and Ohio State's side every year. They play each other somehow every week before the game. I don't know how that schedule gets made that way. I would love to have like Purdue one year or somebody where it wouldn't matter. But we're on the road to Maryland. They're home against Rutgers. At least for a half, they always end up being tighter games than they need to be. So I will take Rutgers plus 31.5 as the super dog. Do we have records, by the way? Where's everybody stand?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Good show. There we go. Still dominating super dog.
That's about it. It's under 500 in the fucking game. So
whatever. And then I'm going to take 4 road dogs today with my pick'ems. And we're going to start
I wonder why.
Arkansas at Texas. The spread is now plus 9.5, just so you guys know. And I'm taking Arkansas and Taylon Green to cover that spread, possibly even upset Texas at home. This is a must-win game for Texas. Let's see what Arch does under true pressure today. And Arkansas is playing with nothing to lose but spoiler. I think Arkansas keeps this game close, plus 9.5 at Texas. That's your first winning leg. Second winning leg, Duke, North Carolina. Fantastic basketball matchup. But in football, Duke has been by far the better team with QB Darian Mensah under center. And then obviously Bill Belichick is still kind of getting his feet under him and coaching college and the tactics and all that good stuff. So I think Duke absolutely manhandles on the road at North Carolina today, covering the 6.5 points. I think they won by 2 touchdowns. But I'll take that 6.5 point spread. And then we're going to Pennsylvania when Tulane comes into town. Retzlaff coming to town 8.5-point favorites over Temple today. They're going to absolutely clear that number. Tulane is still trying to make a case to make the college football playoff, and winning big and getting style points is the way to do that. Look at Tulane cover the 8.5-point spread. And then last, my super dog. Bill picked them the other way around. I'm picking with them because guess what? Washington State has been my super dog team of the year. The spread is right now, Bill, 16.5 points in favor of James Madison. I'm taking Washington State. They've already got me 45 super dog points this year with other close matchups. They're going to come through for me again. Bet on Washington State to cover that 16.5-point spread at James Madison. Mic drop. You heard it here first.
I like it.
That's it. That's all we have for today, folks. I'm very passionate about today's picks. Road dogs.
Road dogs.
Road dogs.
All right, that is it for, what is it, 13, 14, what are you, 13?
16. This is our
Well,
16th episode.
Well,
Week
yeah,
13.
I'm talking week of the schedule.
13.
Yeah.
13. But that is it. Some of the games have kicked.
SMU up.
Get everybody out of here. Next week, it's a big one. It's a rivalry week. Two of us will be going directly against each other. Oregon has a big game. You guys have Washington, I believe.
Yep.
A lot of other big games in the country. So there'll be a lot of previews next week. I guess when are we getting a Lane Kiffin update?
After the game.
We should have it after the Egg Bowl.
Saturday.
That's on Friday. So
we should have that. We hit there.
Well, they said the day after. They said the day after, so Saturday at some point.
It's going to
Probably
leak
Saturday morning. Saturday morning. Thamel will have it.
Yeah.
Cool.
That little weasel probably already has it. So we'll get to introduce. We'll be one of the first shows that'll get to introduce Lane Kiffin as the LSU coach. That'll be fun.
Staying at Ole Miss, y'all. He is staying at Ole Miss. Stop it.
But next week's fun should be shown. Obviously, we'll have recaps. So I mean, if there's any kind of crazy upsets today, there will be movement. So another jam-packed show, gentlemen. Any final thoughts? Closing remarks?
Go
Nothing
Ducks.
for me. I'm gonna go enjoy the Rutgers Ohio State game, and so I can have my mind focused fully on Michigan by 3:30.
All right.
I have to sweat out the Maryland game, so I won't be able to do that till like 7. So
before you go, Bill, just so you know, Triple R Fina, we have shows pretty much every day of the week. Our NFL shows are on what, Thursday.
Yep.
Yes, we got basketball shows, wrestling shows. Wednesday, these two guys, along with our another host, Gene, have Wire to Wire Sports Network, which is basically covers all sports, like a ESPN Sports Center type show. And then we have this one on Saturdays. So lots of action. Come by every week or every day of the week. We'll have something for you. But
that covers that. So
that's the plug.
Thank you for subscribing. Glad to have you. Hope you'll be back here next Saturday. Everybody else, see you then. Signing off. Out of here.